Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers,
Yes,
my
sir.
friends.
Cheers.
We got a full glass this week. We're in for a good time with Sarah. I'm very much looking forward to it. This is what, like 2 years in the making, this conversation?
I have 2 glasses.
There you go. Very, very, very excited for this week's show. Like I said, we've been trying to get Sarah on for a very, very long time. Sarah is the senior manager of productized content at ServiceTitan. Essentially, she runs everything marketing at ServiceTitan. She is the face of the franchise, in my opinion. Brilliant mind when it comes to marketing. She got her taste in the trades, running marketing for Service Champions, little known outfit out in California. She was there for 4 years, helped grow that business. And she was sniped away like so many talented marketers into ServiceTitan. And she has been doing wondrous things over there for that organization and helping contractors across the country in so many different trades. And she really gets down to the nitty gritty. She is very real and authentic with people. I know she called me out on some shit when we were in Austin, and that was a fantastic conversation, and can't wait to report back to her on progress that's been made there. But truly, she's one of the most authentic people that I met in the trades. She's been a founding member of the Lady Titans as well, and been instrumental in growing that group to where it is today, being incredibly impactful. And I mean, she's a huge voice for women in the trades. And now she's helping out Michelle with her E3 summit as well. Yeah, I'm stoked, dude.
Yeah, you basically took all the words out of my mouth. I'm looking forward to intelligible conversations. Last time we had a conversation, we all had a few too many bevies, and I think it was just circular at that point. So excited to dive into a couple things, and even one topic that I'm super thrilled on is email marketing. I know about a month and a half ago, 6 weeks, I had a post when it says email marketing is dead, and Sarah's like, no, it's not. And you know what? It's not. You know, there is a time and a place for it, and being able to do it the right way. And how can you leverage your own database? And so she's an expert at those things, and excited to dive in. But our show would not be possible without our sponsors, of course, CHIIRP, Real-Time 360, and On Purpose Media. And in no particular order, let's go ahead and start with CHIIRP. So CHIIRP's the ultimate automation toolbox. So like, we're in shoulder season for most people. And how would you like it if you added in CHIIRP and added in, let's say $42,000 in revenue in your first month, or maybe like Cassie and added $80K in revenue in just 14 days with, guess what? Email's part of that, or rehashing via text messages, ringless voicemails, direct mail, Google reviews. The list goes on and on and on. It is just a fantastic software. Check them out, chirp.com/HSSR, and you'll get 25% off your first 3 months.
Love it. And we got Real-Time 360. Are you tired of juggling multiple marketing tools, all the while agencies or your marketing partners owning all of your logins and you not owning anything? Say goodbye to those frustrations and take control of your marketing with Real-Time 360. Streamline all of your reviews, automate your socials, engage customers with live chat, and more importantly, track all of your success all in one place. Join the revolution and power your success with Real-Time 360. You can check them out at realtime360.io.
And of course, On Purpose Media, where, well, we'll get into that a little bit later about what we do, but HVAC marketing and home services. So if you ever wanted to know if your marketing is on point or not, hit us up on purposemedia.ca/marketing-analysis. And I said us, because guess what? We own the company. Ready to roll?
Without further ado, we got Sarah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Why am I not in that video? I'm with you all the time.
I don't think we had any B-roll footage when that was shot.
I'll get you some.
We should have snuck some in from the tuk-tuk ride.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the only evidence of that is the sticker that I put on the tuk-tuk of HVAC Revealed.
Because I told you should put stickers everywhere. That was my That's what I do.
Well, we did that at Profit Rocket. Anybody that had the name tag, we put the HVAC revealed sticker right over the Profit Rocket logo. And it's funny because you can see the people the next day who got mad at me for doing it because they peeled it off. But the logo for Profit Rocket was so faded at that point that you could tell that I stuck the sticker on them. It was good times. Good times.
Sarah, welcome. Thank you so much for finally making the time and making it work. And truly appreciate you coming on the show and being able to drop some knowledge here today. But why don't you walk us through your journey into the trades? How did you get started? What was it that attracted you to it? Why are you so borderline obsessed with helping contractors today?
I am obsessed. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. So I actually started, I was working at a alcohol retail corporate office as the director of customer service. And the marketing manager from there left the company and went to work for Service Champions. And while I was there on my honeymoon, he called me and he was like, "Hey, how would you like to come and work at an HVAC company? It's near your, where you live and whatever. And you could be, you could have the customer service department." And I was like, "Yeah, fuck no, I don't want to work in customer service ever again." Like, can you make a marketing role for me? And that's kind of how it started. And the very first thing he told me, he was like, "HVAC is not sexy." And I was like, "Oh, challenge accepted." And so he made this rule for me, and I promised him and the owner that I would do everything that I could to learn as fast as I could and help them out. And so that's what I did. I surrounded myself with great people. I learned as much as I could at different online courses and classes because I have a degree in marketing, but that's just so obsolete. And it doesn't even matter. So yeah, that's how I started. I started as a marketing manager, taking over their digital, grew to a director. And now I'm here at ServiceTitan because I wanted to help all that I could. And I had such great support from the owner and from the company that I left to be able to give back as much as I can, because that's, they gave me leadership classes and things like that, and taught me that's what you do in life. You give back big, you love big. And so that's what I did. That's how I started.
That's so cool. In your role now at ServiceTitan, because you take care of a lot of different arms and oversee a lot of different aspects within the marketing department that you're covering. What is it exactly that you do there? Because I think a lot of people get confused with what it is that you offer. I know I've talked to some contractors and they thought that you actually ran your own marketing company. And so it seems to be a misconception out there. So what is it that you actually do with ServiceTitan?
Yeah. Well, I started with Marketing Pro, and they were like, "Hey, can you make email and direct mail templates?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, that's cool. And so that's what I did for a while. And then it became like, "Oh, well, you make pro content for adoption and utilization." And so that's really what I do is I oversee the departments that make Pricebook Pro content and Marketing Pro content. Now that I have a team, and we call ourselves the PPC team, pro productized content, and it all goes in line. So I just make sure that we make templates that add value, push industries ahead of the game with our marketing strategies, and really get them to the point faster, right? Because there's so much to do in marketing. It's not just email and direct mail and SMS. It's like those are just 3 channels, right? And then like, we're busy, and the tabs that we have open as a marketer, it's insane. And if my brain could just stop and be more organized into one system, that's the goal, right? The goal is to be more automated and efficient. And that's what ServiceTitan's all about, is just pushing you ahead. And even though it's a difficult software, that's the point of it, right? We want you to get ahead faster. So I just went on, and the interesting thing is that I knew and noticed during COVID that nobody was talking about marketing just in general, right? but it was such a big problem. It was such a big opportunity. And so I started even before ServiceTitan talking about marketing in the trades on Facebook to owners, to everyone, because I was like, I need help, right? I'm drowning. And so then I brought other marketers in, and Matthew Tyner, and we just went and just started talking. And so that's probably why people are confused, because they're like, what are you doing? Why do you give this stuff away for free? And it's because you deserve it. You
Mhm.
deserve to get ahead faster. Like, marketing is hard. Advertising is hard. I just want to help as much as I can.
Well,
Love it.
here's the thing is when you do give it away for free, 95% of the people, 90% of the people won't do shit with it. The other 5 to 10% of the people that will do it, we're going to find the answers out anyways. So you might as well be the one that gives back and loves big, gives back big and loves back big, right? Because when you do that, now you're creating that synergy of the value first approach. So, um,
Well, here, do you mind if I take over?
yeah, sure.
You got some. Okay, cool. The thing that you talked about there was like relying on one thing, right? Whether it was email or SMS, and how there's so many different aspects of marketing. An analogy I always use is a stool, right? The more legs you have on your stool, the more strong and sturdy it is. If you rely on just one stream of leads coming into your business, or one area of communication in order to generate revenue for your business, if that goes away for some reason, you're fucked, and your stool's collapsing and you're falling on your face, right? Meta's been shut down for a day before. If you relied on that for leads only, and that was your biggest lead source, you were screwed that day, right?
Mhm.
Algorithms change constantly. Google's algorithm is changing right now. Every single week, it feels like there's
It
a new
changes by
core
the second
update,
of search,
right?
right? Like, that's
Yeah.
what you have to think about. You're changing the algorithm, so it's
But with
insane.
all of these things changing and evolving, um, as a contractor, how can I be able to have a 30,000-foot view and understand what each of these elements are, but then rely on other people in order to get them done?
I think, the biggest thing for me is to have that internal marketer. Yes, I love agencies, and agencies can run, from a high level perspective, but they're never going to know your brand like an internal marketer. And that
Correct.
internal marketer's job is to hold the vendors accountable, but also create partnerships, right? And I think that, um, contractors entering into the market, and they're like, oh, I'm just getting started. I'm going to start with, I can't afford a person inside. Well, there are interns, there are other things that you can afford, and you only can't afford something when you live in a scarcity mindset. You have to be able to say, if I have this person, what will they be able to do for me? What's the value? What can be taken off my plate? Because I'm an owner.
Mhm.
And that would be me going and working in the business, having to learn a whole new skill set. That's insane, right? Like, you wanna be able to trust the people that you hire to act like owners, and give them the autonomy to run free, but also to report back to you as to, like, what opportunities you're learning, what wins are you having, and grow and learn from that role. Um, and I think, like, that's where it kinda gets convoluted. It's marketing is scary, and they're like, "This is a huge budget." Like, you're saying I need $100,000 just to get by through my year? No, we're saying you need way more than that to compete. But, you gotta start somewhere. And, I just think that, take the fear off the table, and really understand how you can grow an internal marketer, and they don't have to come out knowing everything, because they won't. Marketing and advertising, like I said, changes by the second of the search. And so you have to give them the tools to continue to grow, and give them the tools to know how to work with your partners, um and evaluate your agencies, and evaluate your products and your tools that you use, because internal marketer for the one. Yeah. Matt and I are really big about it. But it's something that I see all the time. They're like going with all these agencies, and they have so many of them, and then they're like, "Well, we don't know, the data is everywhere." And I'm like, "Yeah, the data is everywhere because we're everywhere, right?"
Right.
And
Well, and
it's
it's
just,
also really easy for a marketing agency to deliver data in a way that makes them look good,
oh man, I've
right?
had so many agencies deliver data that makes them look good, and
Yeah.
I'm digging into it, and I'm like, "This doesn't make sense." Like, And I've had, I have had many fail forward moments when it comes to working with partners and learning how to leverage them to be my best friends, right? That's why I'm friends with internal marketers, with agencies. I'm friends with people that are smarter than me, that will push me forward, that will challenge me, that I can ask all of my questions to, because I never want to stop asking questions. And if I don't know something, I don't have to know it all, but I need to know someone around me that I can ask a question to be like, is my thought process even on the right track? And that's how I've really gotten ahead. It's not that I'm doing this all alone. It's that I leverage better people around me, like smart people. And I surround myself with really intelligent people. And I love that.
Well, it's the idea of being the dumbest person in the room, and if you can be the dumbest person in the room and everybody else is smarter than you, then you're winning, right? And some people that's an ego check, and they're like, I can't never do that, but well, that's how you're going to get ahead. You mentioned the fail forward moment and working with a vendor, and I was going to talk a little bit about internal marketer and how does that work with an agency, and maybe we can circle back to that. But your biggest fail forward moment, or maybe two or three that you've had that you've learned in working with vendors that other business owners could also take that same lesson from?
Yeah, most definitely. So my I've had instances where PPC was out of control in the spend, and they spent all of my budget within the first week. And all of the traffic was from other countries. And this is very long ago, like just a random one instance. And so I had to, this was right when I started. So I had to learn like what everything was. So I reached out to a partner that worked in a different area, and he helped me dig deep into that. The other was owning my own content. I made a commercial one time with a TV station, and I didn't own it, so I couldn't distribute it. And then owning my AdWords was a big thing. But all of this really came about like this was years ago, right? And so I've been teaching this as we go along. Hey, own your content, own everything. And your content is AdWords, your content is commercials, your content is video, your content is anything and everything on your website. I had no idea. And these are just things that I simply did not know, right? And I had to fail forward to find out. And it was okay, right? Everything became okay once I figured it out and learned how to negotiate contracts, and really have honest conversations with vendors and be like, cool, this is what I've learned. Tell me how you're going to, help me. Tell me how we're going to work together. Tell me what the SLA is if anything happens, and that service language agreement. Like, I want to know what you're doing for me. I want to know how many hours you're spending on it. And you're like, oh my God, all of my people that you're their vendor for are going to be like, well, tell me about it. But that's really what I said to them. I was like, tell me about it. Like, I need to know as much information as possible, because it's my job to act like an owner and take it back to the owner and say, this is what we're doing. And then the other big thing is having my vendors give me a strategy, because I might not know what they're doing in PPC every single day or on my website. So I created a basic content strategy of keywords that was inside of my CRM, and I basically analyzed the data. So from job types to business units to the keywords that the customers were speaking on the phone, and created a content strategy based off of that by zip code, and went after those during the month. And then I would rotate and optimize the content based on that. So creating a content strategy, owning your content, and creating partnerships with vendors. Those are the three things that I would anyone really can do when it comes to their marketing.
I was seeing if Evan had a follow up. I like to try to, step back a little bit and let him ask some questions every now and again.
I just like to leave people speechless. They're just like looking at me like,
Well, so I mean, let's say owning your content, right? We see this quite a bit,
Right.
in like we see this on the agency side, right? When people come to us and they're like, okay, well, can we get your your current login to your website so we can make the transition over to us seamless? Like, well, I don't have it. I'm like, okay, when you get it, and they're like, well, the company says no, it's ours. Or the second that the cancellation notice goes in, bye bye website, and you're like, fuck, like you literally like it should be yours, right? And it's a big thing, and so I think that's a key factor for a lot of people that I always get every time this comes up. And I haven't had it come up in a little while until today, and I get on my horse and I'm like, okay, I bang the drum loud and clear.
I was going to say,
Owning your content, sponsored by
I was going to say, there's this well-known company that's an insect with a little stinger on the tail, but
right.
throwing that out there.
There's also another one that's a square in
Yeah.
it too. Although I think they've been a little bit better recently. So, but that's a key thing, right? And like they're a big name, right? And so understanding that as a as a vendor, as a contractor, you need to understand those relationships with your vendors.
But I think it's not just big names, it's small names, right?
Yep.
It's all sorts of vendors out there. And it's not that they are doing it maliciously, some of them.
Mhm.
Like it's just that that's the way that they've built their agencies on. And they can learn that that's not appropriate.
Totally.
Or maybe we need to change the way that we have been doing business, right? Because nothing like you can't just keep doing business the same way that you always do. There's just it just doesn't work that way. And as more marketers get as they learn these things, as business owners learn these things, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, let's go ahead and just negotiate that because everything is negotiable. And I think that, sometimes we forget that, but everything is negotiable.
Yep. Well, and it's reverse engineering the client experience,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Whether it's on the marketing side or on the contractor side, doesn't matter what service or trade you're in. The more often that you can look back at that and say, okay, well, how can we improve this? How can we make it 1% better on the phone? How can we make it 1% better on our website? How can we make it 1% better when our technician shows up? Finding those micro adjustments end up leading to a really big result at the end. So definitely
Yeah,
on the
and
marketing
leading
side
with
of things, do it as
innovation,
well.
right? Like I want my vendors to be high level innovators,
Mhm.
and I want them to come to me with these great suggestions that I just don't think of.
Right.
And when you brainstorm and you have that power together, like that's the partnership that I look for in vendors. It's like,
Mhm.
tell me something different. Tell me something I don't know, which is a lot. Because I do not want to know everything. Like my brain is on fire enough. Like, no, thank you.
Well, and that's one of the selfish reasons why we started the show was now we get to pick the brains of some brilliant minds within the industry, and then we can bring those ideas, distill them down into something actionable, and give them back to our clients,
Yeah.
and give them something to work on and new ideas. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to database marketing and owning your client base, this was actually a question we just ran a webinar. For those who didn't see it, go check out the webinar from last week. It was fantastic. We had a lot of fun doing it. But one thing that we did not touch on hard enough was being able to market to your current client base. And this was the first thing that you were brought into ServiceTitan to do, was to create these templates, make it easy for contractors to be able to distribute email marketing back out to their current clients. How is email still an effective form of communication today? Because people keep saying, like Thaddeus, that it's dying and that it's less effective than it used to be. But why is email still effective today? And how can contractors use it to their advantage in a marketplace that is very, very cluttered?
Yeah, most definitely. And this week it's super cluttered. Like like holidays, it's noisy. And
Yep.
so you have to have multiple layers. Your existing client database inside of your CRM or ERP is a gold mine, right? And it's a gold mine of rehash opportunities.
Mhm.
So it's either if the conversion was a yes, then you nurture. If a conversion was a no, then you rehash. But even in the nurture, you're rehashing without being salesy. It's like 70% nurture, 30% sales, and really understanding the what you have in your existing client in your database, right? Because those are audiences. And so the more personalized you can get with filtering out that audience, that's how you market, right? You want to give them what they need. So say they just had a I don't know, they just had a repair on their AC. Well, why didn't they replace? Right? It's a band-aid. You just put a band-aid on something, and then what? The price is only going up. And you need this. This isn't something that you can get around. It's an investment. And so if it's a no, then we need to add content to that no to inform them, educate them, and be on their side so that eventually they can make that yes happen for their family and for their, or their business. And I think that's really the point of creating really personalized segmentation with audience filters to know the persona that you're marketing to, or say that they're veterans and you have a persona profile that you built from your audience inside of your database, because you can do that. And then you could add it as a custom field inside of ServiceTitan. And then you could say, hey, you're veterans and I want to not offer you discounts. I want to thank you. And I want to maybe have you on my commercial. So maybe I'm doing like a thing, where I'm going to say, I'd love to invite you. You can do those things. And I think that's the cool part about your all the people inside of your database is that A, they're people, and B, you want to send the right message at the right time to the right person. And so that's why, you really hone in on that existing client database, because there's always something to talk about, and it's not yourself, it's them.
How specific would you get in terms of segmenting out a database? Like how much is too much?
Well, if you are a marketer, you want to know how people respond, right? And you want to know how different zip codes respond, because what if one zip code is price sensitive? And what if another zip code is not? And so you could have different pricing strategies for by zip code. You could have it by zone. You could have it by, like I said, what they did or didn't convert on by job type, or by business unit, or sell them add-on sales or subscription services that you just incorporated with. Like, what do they need, and how will you deliver that value to them? That's I like to go granular, but I also am all about personalization. So the spray and play, it's not a marketing tactic. Like it's just not. Like if you're sending a message to everyone, then you're speaking to no one. Right. Is what I believe.
You mean the 89 new AC units for this fall only starting at $89 a month isn't going to work?
Not to everybody, because not everybody's in the market for an $89, per month for 5,000 months.
That's why you have to run two ads. One that is the price one and for the monthly amount, and one that is the full cost. And now you have both going out. So you have to run more is what, the essence of what she's saying there. So here's in the other part too, and I'm curious to know how you did, because a lot of, I think what you're saying for the email are people that have already raised their hand, they're already in your database, right? And so those are, when you think about the numbers and give or take on these, 3% of people are problem aware and they're actively searching for your solution and are ready to buy right now. 17% of people are problem aware and they're researching in that phase, and they're looking for a solution. They're gathering the information. 20% of people don't even know that they have a problem. Right. They know I have a problem, but they're not actively looking for a solution. And then 60% of people don't know they have a problem. They don't even know that there's a solution. So looking at, the 80% of individuals that might not have raised their hand, might not be in that ecosystem, how can you effectively do this sort of thing with the bigger bulk of the population?
If they're in your database, they had a problem that needed a solution at one point in time. Does that make sense? Yep. And so you still have to pinpoint what that was. And you can do that through the data inside of your CRM to understand what's going on. And that's, I think that's another really big part about your existing clients, is that you need to know the data. You need to know the numbers. And and your existing clients are just one piece, right? Because everybody wants the new lead, but it's so expensive. Like it's 5 times more to get a new lead than it is to utilize your existing client list. And there's just so much opportunity that we leave on the table with our existing client list. I mean, I would challenge for those that use ServiceTitan to go to your follow-up tab, look at your unsold estimates and see how many you've left on the table and what's that revenue number look like, or go to your dashboard for your call center and look at what the booking rate is. And if it's below 80%, think about all of the potential revenue you're missing by average ticket and the calls that could have been there, and really like dig into that. It's not just about your marketing. I could send out marketing and do marketing and advertising all day long. But if it is an operational error, and if I have poor operations, then my marketing will never outperform poor operations.
Right.
And so that's the important part about, yeah, I could go after my existing clients, but if my call center is not going to book the call, then what? They called you. Like, book the call. That's what I told them. Like one time I sent out an email and I spelled furnace wrong. And I had sent out an email to 70,000 people.
No,
And this was before I knew
Turn
about
ants.
personalization and audience filters and things like that. And it was Fernandance. I don't even know. Anyways, like the people were calling in and they were like, "Did you know that you spelled furnace wrong?" And the CSR manager at the time came over to me and she was like, "You spelled furnace wrong." And I was like, "I'm pretty sure I double checked it, but you know what? Just book the call." Like
That's
flip
so
the
funny.
script, right? Like flip the script.
Yes.
If like you got to be on your toes when you're a CSR, and be able to laugh about it and have fun with it and be like, people spell stuff all the time in advertising because they want you to see if you notice. I did not on purpose. I literally spelled furnace wrong. So
But here's a question.
Own
Here's a
that.
question though. Is like looking at that, would you do that again, but on purpose?
oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would
It's a
have
great
way
question.
more fun marketing. I'd be such a fun marketer. And like I always admired Casey from Morris Jenkins because she's just so fun and she got to do like such fun things. And like she had a billboard and then graffitied over it. And I was like, I want to be that marketer. Like but so I would have way more fun in my marketing, and we're working on incorporating way more fun into Marketing Pro because again, you have to engage your audience and you have to keep their attention, and that's just so hard to do nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is. And it's funny because Thad and I used to run magazines before we started our digital company. And I had a customer whose ad was incorrect. They approved it with the wrong spelling and we didn't catch it. They didn't catch it. It went out and it happened to be a furnace company too. It was a heating company. And they called me appalled that the magazine went out with this spelling mistake. And literally it was spelled with 2 O or 1 O and when it should have been 2. Right.
Furnace?
Well, the
No,
furnace
just copy on the
ad,
ad.
like the word 2 was spelled wrong.
Oh, okay.
They didn't spell furnace wrong. They spelled 2 wrong. But this community where the magazine went out to happens to be a really highly educated community. There's a lot of university professors there. So they got all of these phone calls. They're calling me and they're bitching that the magazine went out with the wrong spelling error. And I was like, do you understand how many people just saw your ad and phoned you and you didn't book them? That was my immediate response right back. So I'm glad that we're on the same page there. And then they're like, oh shit.
I really looked at her and I was like, flip the script. And I was like, you got to do it and you got to do it fast. And so
Absolutely.
I came up with a script for them because that's a part of a marketer's job, right? And you're like, wow, you have a lot of hats. Well, yeah, often you do in small businesses. And then as you grow, you get to, delegate and add more members to your team. Correct. But whenever there was a conversion opportunity, it needed content. And CSR scripts, technician handouts, even install handouts, like all of that, like I provided because a no just simply means that they don't understand and there's not enough content.
Correct.
So yeah.
Love it. With adding members to your team, because I wanted to ask this earlier, you talked about it right at the beginning of the show. At what stage of a business's life, whether it's revenue, team size, et cetera, at what point do you think they should look at hiring an internal marketer?
I would say the sweet spot that I keep seeing over and over is around 10 million. Because before that, they're doing a lot of word of mouth. And
Mhm.
I think that we also need to realize that the sooner you can do that, the better, because
Mhm.
then, it gets the traction and then you can grow faster. But what I've saw during COVID is that people were like, look how easy this is.
Mhm.
Oh
Right?
boy.
And now after they're like, "Oh, no. This is seasonality. Like, these are lulls." And now the consumers are doing things that are different, right?
Yeah.
COVID taught us as a consumer that we needed to live life. And so, last year I came out with "Come Home to Comfort"
Mm.
because I knew that they weren't gonna come home. Travel is something that's way bigger and fun than getting your AC replaced. And so, like, you have to think about how the consumer behavior is in order to really understand how to market, right? And you have to be ahead of the trends. So having an internal marketer will help you get ahead of the trends than being reactive, because you've got to create a consistent strategy. So I would really hope that you start with the people that hold the revenue, and then you keep marketing holds the revenue and they drive the revenue. So really, I would hope that you would get an internal marketer rather sooner than later, even if it's an intern just to do social media. um like, there's so many different roles in marketing, and not everyone is analytic, but you need someone
Correct.
that drives the analytic side, someone that drives the brand, someone that works with social media, someone that designs. I was doing all of these things, and it was, you know, and writing scripts and commercials, and doing a lot of these different projects, and that's a lot for one person to manage. So I would hope that you would be able to build your marketing team as fast as possible, because you're going to grow as fast as possible with an internal marketer.
Imagine how much easier it would be with GPT.
Oh my God, no. Like, once this came out, I was like, look what I can do.
Right?
And I created like these crazy fun bots that, have all of my brain thoughts in it. So it's like, oh, you need an email campaign. Yeah, but not really. You need a memo to your team. You need a presentation to your team. You need to, do all these different things when you just have one campaign strategy. And then it tells you like what other channels that you can use and how to go after it. So,
Right.
I'm
Well, like
curious.
Matthew just said here on the chat, he said, now we have to be good at marketing.
I know.
Which I've got a full rant on that after we get to the random question. But before we do that, I do have one quick question around the booking rate thing that you mentioned in operations. Because it's so easy to excuse calls within ServiceTitan or most CRMs, right? Oh, it wasn't a good lead because I couldn't book them because our calendar was full, is oftentimes an excuse that I hear from CSRs. But the reality is that's a good lead because they were asking for the service that we provide and they were in the area that we provided. So how do you balance those metrics of the booking rate versus like the absolute booking rate, which is total calls versus calls booked? That includes all spam, all calls that should be excused. Like, how is it that you're diving in without having to listen to every single call to identify when there is an issue on the operational side of things?
You know what? There was a scorecards that we kept with our CSRs, and we looked at all of those different metrics to see, was there a period of time where there was a lot of spam coming in? Was there a period of time of abandoned calls? We set priorities for the different calls that were coming in. And it was kind of interesting as we grew. Membership calls would come in during demand time because we didn't effectively um consistently market to existing clients and to memberships. And when I say that, it's there was a rotation on them, but it was the idea that was put out there was that, well, save your memberships for when it's slow. Well,
Hmm.
when you're smaller, okay, like that they could help you, but if you don't create a consistent way, they're just going to call you during demand. And then they're the priority, right? Because we set that precedent. And we're like, you're a priority. We're going to get out to you fast and first. But then that through all the calls that we paid for, like, down the drain. And so there was an imbalance in that. And I think it was because of inconsistent marketing. And that was the opportunity to really understand how to create a strategy that you always speak to the people that are in your database, and nurture them so that they know, don't react, but let's be preventative about this. So yeah, call center, man, that's a hard job. Like, and the
is.
balance of the calls,
Mhm.
and I, reclassifying the calls and training them and making sure that, everything is done properly. It's really important because it goes all the way to your revenue and your income. And so marketing vendors get blamed because they're like, oh, a call center agent will put it to Angie's List because it's an A, it's right at the top, and change the call bubble. And really it came from this attribution. And so now the income is just messed up. And so you have to go back, retrain constantly, because call centers also have retention and uh, opportunities. So
Mhm.
I'm interested to see what AI will do with call centers, to be honest. Even though I know the personal approach is something that we hold tried and true, because I mean, people are calling in with a problem, right? They're not calling you because they're like, this is just the most awesome day and I really want someone to come look at my AC just for fun. You know?
They're calling you because it's hot out and your AC is broken and
Right.
they're in pain, right? Or
They're
it's cold.
frustrated as hell.
Yeah. Or it's Canada and your furnace is down and it's your risk of your household freezing.
Yeah.
So, um, not to take away from that conversation, I think Evan wants to get into something around COVID marketing. I want to get into some of the AI and the future of things, but I did want to ask something on internal marketing before we go to our random question. And because you mentioned it a few times, and you said how around 10 million you're hiring an internal marketer, but I want to get a little bit of clarification in and around that on what is the internal marketer are actually doing. Are they taking over the website? Are they taking over the SEO? Are they taking over the PPC? Are they taking over the social media? Or are they just really helping out with that consistent brand strategy? And if they're not taking that over, at what point would a business, I know this is a long question. At what point would a business might say, hey, I'm done with agencies. I have the internal marketer. And now I'm going to bring everything in-house.
Yeah. Great question. It depends on the business, and it depends on the operator of how fast they want to move. So if I was just hiring an internal marketer and I just got started, I would be like, cool, your job is to manage the vendors. That means I need you to gather as much information as possible about the vendors, put it in one source, and then I would start with, what do you know about each channel, and like, let's go and learn what we don't know, or partner with other people who might know more. So that's probably where I'd start them. I'd start them in their sweet spot. What do they love to do as a marketer, right? Like, do they love social media? Do they love taking pictures? Who cares if it's crappy at first? It's fine. It's better than nothing,
Done
right?
is better than perfect.
Right. And content is never perfection. It's just not. And even when I put up a post, I'm like, yeah, I could have designed that better. Like, it's just whatever. And so I would just like start them slow. And then I would say, okay, well, who are my vendors and what are they doing for me? Because they have to get caught up and understand everything. And then as you grow as a company, I've seen some build their own agencies inside. And, and that's intelligent. That's brilliant. Because you can work with other companies in the area. You could do bigger things. And those companies are doing great. And then bringing things in house, it just depends on how fast they're able to implement. Are you able to implement it faster being in house? Do they know your brand better? Can you, what does the team look like? Is it a videographer? Is it a PPC? Like, is it like, what does that look like? And if they are in-house, are they getting the knowledge that they need to continue to learn and innovate? Or are they focused on too many things? So you really just have to think about like, uh, what do you want? What is okay being outsourced? And then what is okay as you slowly grow that you want to bring more and more internally? Video production and photography. Like, I wish I had someone and a designer. And, they have all of these people now. Like, they broke out my role into like 6 different roles. And that makes sense. As you grow, you have to really say, I can't have one person do it all. That doesn't make sense. Um, so those are my thoughts. Would love to be like, oh, at 50 million, you've got to go get, a whole team. But like, what if your operations sucks? And what if you're not profitable and you're like, you have this great number, but like it doesn't make sense. Your headcount's higher than your profits. That never makes sense. So you really just have to look at your numbers and see, okay, well, this is maybe a possibility. Let's test into this. Let's see how this is going to go, because marketing is a test.
Yep.
So is running a business.
Well, and the other part too is that there are sometimes an agency is actually more cost effective in the long run, because sometimes you might look at the ticket number that you're paying an agency, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000, depending on the agency that you're with. And you might be, some people are like, well, I can bring somebody in internal cheaper than that, but are they going to be as good as the agency who might have 15, 20, 30, 50 employees that are all specialists in their role? Right? Like they have a Google ad specialist, they have an SEO specialist, they have a website specialist, they have the strategist, and now they're paying what you should be paying those individuals to be able to come into the team, and you're getting the benefit of it. So there's almost like there's a diminishing returns at some point where it doesn't make sense to make that switch.
Right. And you have connections that I don't. Does that make sense? Like I'll pay for a Google connection. You want to put me on the phone with Google? Okay. I'll let them have it. Not a problem.
Right.
Like, you're right. Like, I mean, it's all about what the specialization is with the agency. Like, what can they do for me?
Yep.
Like even with outside brands, like, can they put me on more betas? Can they, like help me grow faster with their innovation than being internal? Like, okay, I'm in. But I do want you to have an internal marketer, because someone needs to represent your brand, someone needs to grow your brand, and someone needs to know the numbers to be able to report back to the owners, because the owners do not have time to manage the budget, to micromanage the channels, to understand that vendor partner relationship, and manage it in a way to where they're learning, but not like over inundating themselves with data that they don't need.
I agree. The clients that we have that have that internal marketer are oftentimes the ones that are more, not to say that the ones that aren't as dialed in, but oftentimes more dialed into brand continuity with everything that happens. And it's a checks and balance, right? They help hold us to a greater level of accountability, because that's their job. That's their role. Not the owner has way too many hats and they just can't do it. So, yeah, appreciate that. So let's jump into the random question generator. And of course, this is one of my favorite parts of the show. And it's the random question generator is brought to you by On Purpose Media. We're the agency that likes you back. Our content writer loves writing those things for there. But hey, look, again, it's brought to you by On Purpose Media. We are home service marketing experts. And if you're wondering if your marketing is on point or if it's not, well, like I said earlier, onpurposemedia.ca/marketing-analysis. We'll get to that info. But Sarah, we have 3 questions. You don't get to know what the questions are. You just get to choose. Do you want what's behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
I'm going to go with door number 3.
Okay. If you could travel back in time, what era would you visit?
So space time or time space is kind of my thing. What era would I visit? I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to go back in time, to be honest. I guess I would visit maybe the 70s. They look kind of fun. I don't know what era that is. I'm old, but I don't know. Like, it was like 10 years before I was born. 14. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's when
It
you're
just looks
born.
fun. I would probably go there just
You
for
know what?
fun,
It does look fun. That 70s show. All right, all right,
right?
all
I
right.
totally do that. I mean, like the clothes are already back,
Yeah,
so
right.
it works
Yeah,
out.
that 70s show, good show. And then Dazed and Confused was the all right, all right, all right. So we should get that on the soundboard, Evan.
All right, all right, all
All right,
right.
all
Yeah.
right, all right.
First ever words. I listened to his book, by the way. Great book.
Oh, such a great book,
Such
Greenlight.
a great book. Yeah. And but I listened to it. I didn't read it. And I loved listening to it because you could hear him read something and say something. And then he would just pause and he would laugh, which you didn't get in the book because he's like, man, that was crazy. And then he'd continue on with the story. But that was his very first 3 words that he ever said on camera. Impromptu, ad-libbed, and it was just getting him into character. And it's what he's known for today. So, which is
I
good.
hope that's not all he's known for. He's super intelligent, right?
Oh,
He has
super
a
smart.
leadership class, like
Yeah.
crazy, crazy intelligent.
Well, and what I like what he's known for is like people put it on shirts, people will spin it off to do like all these sorts of things because that's some of his like
That's
the
his brand.
right when somebody
brand,
says all right, all right, all right, you just know Matthew McConaughey, right?
No, it's yeah. I mean, along that line of being memorable for something. He's incredible. He's remarkable. He's best in the world within his craft, right? And arguably one of. And you don't get there without being well-rounded and well-versed and well-studied within his craft. And he's done exactly that. Now, when it comes to marketing, the last couple of years and arguably the last close to 20 years now, marketing has been drastically different than what it was for the previous 50 to 100 years. And we were in a seminar, Thaddeus and I, last week with a bunch of different marketing companies talking about how can we continue to improve as business owners, how can we continue to improve as marketing companies to provide better results for our clients in the variety of fields that we serve. And one of the guys that came up and spoke, he serves real estate agents. That's his area of expertise, which when COVID hit, it was essentially illegal to be a real estate agent. You couldn't get into close quarters with someone. All title companies were closed. Government agencies were closed. You couldn't close on a house. You couldn't move in. You couldn't get keys. You couldn't do anything. Couldn't show a house. Couldn't sell a house. So he had to come up with different marketing strategies. And it led him down a path of marketers in the past were problem solvers. When you had a problem as a business, you went to a marketing agency to solve a dramatic problem that you had in your business to get the word out, to try and figure things out and continue to move forward and grow. In the last 15 to 20 years, marketing has gotten very easy because blue letters on a Google search page is not that difficult. It's growing. It's grown very easy as marketers to provide results based off of Facebook and Google. And we are now heading into a phase, especially coming off of what COVID just provided in the home services space, where marketing was even easier because everyone was looking for a new AC because they were working from home. And search volumes went through the roof. And when you look at Google Trends and the searches for air conditioning based keywords, you saw a massive spike over the last 2 years. And now we've returned back down to normal. And a lot of companies are getting punched in the face when it comes to the realities of regular times. We're also heading into massive disruption within the search space with what's happening with AI and generative search, and things are changing dramatically in that way. So my question to you, Sarah, is around
So long.
this
I'm like,
without further ado, holy,
the roundabout way. In getting back to marketing being a problem solving and solution based way of communicating about your business. How can businesses today continue to disrupt in their market by getting back to old principles? And this is one thing that you said earlier was around your marketing degree, which really stood out. And I wrote it down right at the beginning too, in that it's old news.
Yeah.
Principles will never die. Principles stand true, regardless if it's 1920 or 2020. Principles will stay true because human behavior stays true. So how can we as marketers, how can we as contractors continue to go back to what it is that's human behavior to connect with audiences, regardless of the tools that we're presented with?
I think it's remembering your why, right? Why are you in business? Why did you start doing what you're doing? Did it feel good when you found a solution to the problem that you encountered the very first time that you went out there? How did that client feel? The person is your why, And so then start to build a brand off of the feeling that you just did. And whether it's to make a dollar or whatever, it's really not. When you really think about it, you solved someone's problem. You came to the rescue. It's that hero feeling that you're not acknowledging. And you're not the hero they are because they called you. And you feel like the hero, but at the same time, that's just going to help you build a better brand. So going back to the old school ways of building your brand, it's not old school, it's new school. Being innovative in your community and giving back, that's where you're going to win the hearts, and you'll win everything else with people. And you got to remember that, for me, it's not just the people that you're serving your employees, and your employees are your customers too. And so you got to really develop a great culture, and then the culture will go out to your brand. It'll build your reputation in the community. Like, all of these things are so important to start with, and you can use AI to create all of these things for you and write messages. That's the innovation part. And old school tactics is that we can get there faster. We can build procedures, standard operating procedures. We can build manuals. We can build scripts. We can build everything faster and then edit it to be our own voice. So I think I answered the question because it was such a long story. But I think I got somewhere near there. Build your brand and win the hearts of people, because people are our power. And that's where I always go back to. It's like, yeah, they're going to have a problem, but at any point in time, we're always recommending something. Word of mouth is still going to be, it's tried and true, right? Like, you're sitting there drinking a Coke and someone's like, well, how does that Coke taste? You're like, it's delicious. They're like, oh my God, I need a Coke. It's zero. What flavor is that? It's the cherry vanilla zero sugar. What do? That's word of mouth. You're going to go to the garage. Just go buy it at the store. Oh my God, I really like that. Like, we talk about products all day long as we are going through our own story throughout the day. Why aren't you a part of that product that they're talking about?
Right.
So
well, and this is what's interesting about Coke is that they don't give a fuck how you heard about them. They don't track that to see, oh, this can was bought from word of mouth, and this can was bought because we had a Santa Claus commercial with a polar bear.
No, their brand is so good. They're just like, yeah, people are going to buy us.
Right. They just want to dominate the marketplace.
We used to have drugs in here.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, how can we get people addicted to it?
Yeah, how can we get people addicted to it? Add more sugar. So if somebody doesn't have that brand notoriety and doesn't have that word of mouth, doesn't have that frequency of being added into daily conversations from a contractor perspective, we're obviously talking about marketing today. How can they add that in? What can they do?
I mean, they can get started in their local chamber of commerce. Like, they're going to have to go out into the community and really be different. They can go to their neighborhood. Even in my neighborhood, the contractor that shows up is the one I used to work for. Do you know why? Because I always had a truck in front of my house. Because I had my brother dress up as a technician, and I was out there taking pictures in my neighborhood of him he's not a technician. He's in the Army. And I still dressed him up to do photo shoots. And, my neighbors were out there seeing it. And so my whole neighborhood is service champions. And I don't see anyone else. And it's just so interesting to me. The little tiny things that you can do, the guerrilla marketing tactics is what they would call them. But really, it's just, getting involved in a community awareness strategy and going after those local charities, going after, even if you don't have a lot of money, it doesn't matter. Time, you can give them your time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just really the most important thing is give people your time, give back, and givers always gain. And that's actually a really good marketing strategy as well.
Well, the truck home, like how many like, can you think about this? Like you truck sit during the day or even at night? Like I know of a truck down the road that I see all the time because I go and I walk the dog and the truck's there. You know, a lot of times people say, well, you got to drive your own vehicle to the shop and then hop into the truck and then work your day in the vehicle and then drop it off at the shop and then drive your own vehicle home. What if you just flip that narrative and now your truck's parked there all night long? Right. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, granted that it's secure and yada, yada, yada. And you know, there's
The
certain
trucks are probably more
circumstances
secure
there.
at your home than
Probably.
unless they're in a gated environment. But plus, you're wasting money and time and gas and in different ways. And then, you know, putting expectations on your employees, like that's a totally different conversation I could go into as well when it comes to trucks and stuff. But no, they took them home and they were a part of our brand advertising. Drive them around town, please. Park them where they need to be. Like, that's part of my story. I'm going to be branding everywhere I go. I'm wearing a jacket that I made. You don't even know what this team is at ServiceTitan, right? Like, it doesn't matter to me, but it does have a ServiceTitan logo here. I'm always on brand everywhere I go. And at my conferences, I wear blue. Why? Because that's my colors of my company, right? Like my nails, they're the same thing. Like it's the sprinkle effect, right? And so I think like that's what you've really got to think about as a brand new business, getting out there in the community. What are you wearing? How do you look? Where do you show up in? Because that's not expensive to do. You know, like everyone's like, oh my God, the truck wraps are so expensive and getting a total new brand and all of that stuff, like that's so expensive. Yeah, but it pays off in the long run and you can do things to get you started. You can wear a shirt that you branded and it isn't perfect for the first, month. Go get perfection as you grow. Your brand is constant and should be in constant iteration with evolution.
It's funny you say that. I have a shirt on. HVAC revealed is like you can see that down there. That you mentioned that because this was like I was trying to figure out what t-shirts to get, and I have one where the logo is like on my fucking belly button instead of because I designed it wrong. I ordered one. I'm like, oh, whatever, right? So like my closet literally has rejected samples of things that I ordered. Like one time they get a sample, get it in, get it done. So that way you actually have that. And you know what? That is going to happen. I mean, shit, let's look at our podcast. If you're to go back 3 years to our very first episode, we didn't have this pink. We didn't even have a name, right?
Yeah.
You go back 2 years ago and it looked even different. You go back even a year ago and the content different. But guess what? You got to start somewhere, guys.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere.
I had a giant QR code on my back at one of the very first trade shows I went to with ServiceTitan, and I didn't get permission. I was like, look, these are all free resources of Marketing Pro. My boss was like, well, let's see it. I got over 100 scans. And,
Nice.
like, it's just whatever. Like the QR code was free, and I just kind of made it happen. As much as I couldn't have done that with Marketing Pro, I've done that with Lady Titans, and I didn't have big budgets. I just said, let me fuck around and find out, basically, and I did.
I love the QR code on a shirt, though, man. That's so different. I've never seen one before. Right? You think about that, and like people are like, what's the QR code on your back of your shirt for? Now it's a conversation starter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the back, I couldn't decide the back or the front, and the front seemed inappropriate, and the back was kind of inappropriate as well because it's like, oh, they're taking either a picture of you or whatever. And lesson learned, it was fine and it worked out, but I haven't worn that again. So
it's my number. You can get it on the back.
I know. I think people were thinking about that. Like, what's in this QR code?
At least it's on the front. Hey, I won't even. No.
Whatever.
I'll be good.
Subscription to your
marketing resources. It was my marketing resources. Okay. Like that's all it was.
So not your OnlyFans.
No,
Okay.
Thad's QR code. It would be to his OnlyFans. That's all.
Exactly. There we go. Now we're finally offside a little bit. It took us 64 minutes to get there.
Yes. I think we did good, right? We covered a lot.
We've covered a ton of information.
And you guys did a great job last week with the math part. Like, I would have liked to see it broken out into like business units a little bit more, but like, or say, hey, you need to break it out by business units with forecasting and capacity planning and things like that. But at the same time, like, just getting the math out there is the most important thing. And
You got to start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere, like you said before. Like, that's just so important to know the math.
Well, and here's the other part too, breaking that out into business uses. It's also subjective to the size of your business, right? And where you're at and what's your budget that you have to be able to go further on that, and like we talked about earlier, when you're around 10 million roughly ish, give or take, higher than internal marketer. Well, if we're talking what, Andrew Pelosi, put on Leverage and Data Cube, talking about, okay, well, what about breaking that on to specific budget when offline versus online and your recurring customers? Well, that's also different depending on the size of your business. Somebody that's $1 million probably shouldn't be spending a ton on the branding plays, right? Somebody that's $10 million has more money to spend on branding, and having those nuances built in is tough for just a one size fits all.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should always be on the branding play though, right? Like I said, you can do stuff for free. Like your personal brand is a branding play as well, and that's free. So
Totally. And that's
you know what I mean? Like you should always be branding.
how much you allocating to it, right?
Right.
In terms of dollars, you need your phone to ring. In terms of time, you need to expand your brand, capture market share.
Yep.
Yeah, but doing the brand the right way the first time. So by the way, in case anybody wants to check that out, we have the bit.ly/OPM plan 2024 is the worksheet there. If you go to our YouTube channel, you'll find the webinar that we did as well. But not really about us. It's more about Sarah. And so you leverage that in there. So ServiceTitan.com is one way to check out ServiceTitan. If you want to check out her awesome website, SarahGhirardo.com. It's getting rebuilt, sadly not by us. But if you do have questions, sGhirardo@ServiceTitan.com. She's happy to jump on, help you out, do what you need. They also have a marketing summit coming up. We'll put these in the show notes, by the way. For later, it is bit.ly/3PDGJKM. She's like, hey, how did you guys get OPM plan 2020-24? You just added in there.
Oh, it's fine. I was gonna mention it, and you said to mention it. I did exactly what you told me to do.
I want to give Sarah some time here. The marketing summit. What can people expect? What are they all about? You've done a bunch of them already. What can people expect about the one coming up? This one's in Glendale, Arizona, for all you people up north.
This one's in Glendale, California. We're going to California, not Arizona.
Oh, okay. Well, the website's Glendale, so my bad.
Glendale, California. That's where our headquarters are. We're having a marketing for the trade summit in Glendale, December 7th and 8th. And what we do is we go through the entire funnel of marketing in general. So, and we have vendors, and then we have tenants or customers that actually come and speak about all sorts of different things, from branding to mass media to we're having making data-driven decisions, right? We always start with the math. We go into TikTok, all of the channels that you can think of, building a brand. And we have different speakers come and volunteer their time to speak to about 50 of you in the room, which is a very small class. And you just learn all about marketing. It's not just about Marketing Pro. Like, we'll have sessions for that too. But it's like, how do you do all of this? Like, how does this make sense? How do I get you there faster? And, because that's all I really want for your business, is just for it to grow as fast as you want and as big as you want. But you got to have the right tools in place, and you've got to use the tools that you have. And the tools are you too, like you are the content. So that's what we do. We just have a good time for 2 days, and we talk about marketing a lot and math. So come join this conversation. It'll be a lot of fun.
But also super important for these marketing summits to talk about marketing, because again, as we alluded to earlier, it changes fast, it changes quickly. And look, I took a marketing class in 2009 in one of our, maybe it was 2008, I don't really remember, one of the two, but we did a study on Rock Band and its effectiveness. that's how, like, what's Rock Band, right? Or people are like, what the, like this, it's only really 14 years removed, but it's gone and it's obsolete, and how they market it is completely different in today's day and age. But as Evan alluded to, the psychology stays the same. So having those upfront conversations, because a lot of times, as a business owner, and specifically in the trades, you don't have marketing expertise.
No, and
You
what
don't
you don't know,
know.
you don't know. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And like we're here to help, and we're here. I know everyone's like, "Wow, ServiceTitan, is doing all these things," but we are, because we're here to help you. We want you to grow, and they allowed me to do these, to take off on these summits, and they've grown pretty big. And we're having more next year. There's Toolbox Live events. There's call center events, but the marketing ones are. I work with the content. I work with the vendors. We rotate it out. I make sure that it's relevant. I make sure that it's staying on top of the trends. I ask questions during it, and I know people love that. And yeah, so it's just I'm there to learn too. So that's the cool thing about it. And we'll see you guys there next year, and we're really excited about it.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that Sarah called me out on, because I did not take the time to fill out the form for the longest time.
Mhm.
And so she grilled me on playing small. And I truly appreciated her accountability on
Yeah.
that. And I did fill it out, and we will be coming in the new year.
When you told me I was playing small, you were like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna write a planning book for myself." And so that's what I did, and now I'm gonna sell it. So there, our playing
You
small
can
game
find that
over.
on Sarah's new website, Not Built by Us. And it'll be for sale in the new year.
And fun fact, Sarah, I actually got my start on the interwebs, on online stuff, via selling things on Amazon via KDP. So if you ever want to chat about getting it out there, hit me up. I'll help you out. So
Okay, perfect.
cool.
Perfect.
Well,
That's
we'd be
good to know.
remiss if we didn't ask you our favorite last question. And that is, Sarah, what is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but they don't?
Oh, what do you actually do for a living?
You drink with Canadians.
They're like, "What do you like?" I
What
wish
do you
people
even
would be
do?
like
You
that.
just
Like, what do
show
you?
up and talk about Titan?
They're like, "Do you just talk about marketing all the time?" They're like, "Do you ever turn off?" And I was like, "No." But yeah, that's what I wish they would ask. Like, what do you actually do? But I like that they don't know, because
Would you have
that's
different
a
answers
great
for your
brand,
friends?
right?
Right? Would you have different answers for your friends versus contractors?
Oh yeah, because my friends would look at me like nobody cares. Like they're like they're like, "You're on a podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "Marketing." They're like, "No, we've heard you talk about marketing. Like, we're good." Like, that's not their area. So yeah, I can bore people really quickly,
Well, depending on the person, right? I mean,
depending on the person. Otherwise, I
right.
could talk for hours like I'm doing right now. So
Well, we
Well,
can wrap that up for you if you don't want to continue to talk for hours.
it's fine.
I will say, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time again. Truly appreciate you coming on the show finally. Thank you to ServiceTitan for allowing us to steal her away for an hour to chat with two crazy Canadians about all things marketing and how, God, you add so much value to the industry, truly, through your posting, through one-on-one conversations, showing up at events, giving messages. Yeah, you add so much value. You give back in so many different ways, and you give with all you have. You're, like I said at the beginning, one of the most authentic people that I know in the industry. So thank you so much for doing all that you do, spreading the word, helping people, and making an impact.
And
Thank you.
calling Evan out.
And calling
Yes.
Evan out. Yes, you're
Yes.
welcome. Thank you for calling me out too. I appreciate it.
So welcome.
That's what friends are for.
That's what friends are for.
And, well,
Amazing. And until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, All we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.